Get your Oasis on, mate.
Hello, hey. Hello, everybody. Thousands of fans out there now. Uh, well, tens, perhaps, or perhaps fans. Let's go with fans. Hello, fans. Fan. So this is your regular weekly programming. Your HubSpot update from Real Inbound and HubStart, our best HubSpot friends. I've got young Richard, co-director of Real Inbound with me, and even younger James, who's the chief executive officer of HubSpot, which makes him sound very important. We're not going to do the usual thing today, which is to go through all of the updates on the screen from the product update section. We're actually just going to talk about our reflections on Inbound from last week, because according to HubSpot at least, there were some 200 updates. And I don't fancy doing every single one of those on a LinkedIn Live. Plus, there are some really interesting themes that I want to explore. So we're talking HubSpot updates in general and inbound updates specifically. I've got a copy of Spotlight open in front of me. Should we need to refer to it, just for the viewer to see now. If you jump in, oh sorry, Rich, you're missing from there. Let me just put you in there. Hey, there you go. If you go to this Spotlight website, you'll see it actually from your HubSpot portal. You'll be able to see all the releases in all of their glory, including lots of videos. We'll maybe talk about the themes here. Easy, fast, unified. The Breeze update, particularly Breeze Intelligence, marketing and content updates, and maybe touch on some of the other releases. So that's what I want to do, really. Boys, I don't know how closely you followed it. Like most HubSpot partners, you're probably more aware of it than the average person. I know me and Richard watched it together. We had our own little watch party, Rich. We watched it on Slack together, which is nice. James, you didn't go? I know Scott went. What did he think first? Maybe we should start. I know he's not here, but what did Scott think of the event itself?
Yeah, he definitely found it very interesting. Like the biggest thing that, as you probably expect, that was surrounding the entire of Inbound was AI and the debate around AI. So when he went there, pretty much there was two different types of people he met there. There were people that were very pro AI and people that are very anti AI, and obviously you know which ones he had the most enjoyable conversations with. So there were a lot of people sort of talking about like the different functions that have been released, and from what I've seen around AI is that they're really doubling down on it. They're trying to now bring together all these different initiatives, because from what we've seen so far is they're dabbling with AI in all these different parts of the system, trying to find ways for AI to aid you within parts of your work, whatever team you may be in. And now they're trying to consolidate that into one big unified approach and make HubSpot more of an AI-driven CRM, from what I've been seeing.
Yeah. I think they were more traditional or standard updates, some feature updates, things like the marketing home, although that was out a little bit before, but was touched on, and particularly the marketing analytics, which I think is brilliant. But yeah, let's face it, everybody was talking about Breeze, which used to be ChatSpot, which used to be ChatGPT. So there are three elements to Breeze, as HubSpot have branded their AI. They moved on from ChatSpot, which is a shame. I quite like ChatSpot. It's now, as James said, it's been branded as Breeze AI, and it has been stitched through, I think. Again, I often make the comparison of HubSpot with Apple, but I suspect similarly to Apple Intelligence, when we finally get our hands on iOS 18, is it, or the new iPhone in a couple of weeks, we'll see a far more integrated version of it. And the three types of AI software they're delivering, HubSpot are delivering, not Apple. We'll talk about Apple another time. Is the Copilot, which directly replaces the little the little chat spot logo that you had in your menu bar at the top has now got Copilot written on it. And if you pop it out, again, it actually changed a little bit before inbound, but it's a slightly improved, damned by faint praise, slightly improved interface where you, in effect, ask ChatSpot questions, it Copilot questions. It offers you the occasional prompt, do you want to summarize a company or a contact or something along those lines? And it's as useful as it was. It's a better interface, I would say. It's quite snappy. It's very responsive. You'll also be able to hit Breeze buttons in other places, in contact records and in company records, and as we're now used to, in the content production areas of HubSpot. So you'll see it in email content, you'll see it in your live chat, you'll see it wherever you're writing something in HubSpot, you'll see the opportunity to get Breeze to do a bit of invention for you. Potentially the biggest release though was Breeze agents. Now, if you don't know what an agent is, you wouldn't be alone, I'm sure. But it's basically taking the AI, the ChatGPT or the Breeze AI in this case, and train it to do a specific task, a specific thing, a bit like a robot or a a replacement for a human. Potentially controversial. So in HubSpot land, we've got four currently. We've got four agents. We've got the prospecting agent, which I've played with a lot. We've got the content agent. We've got the customer agent, and we've got, somebody help me, what was the fourth agent? And we've got a fourth agent, which is...
Can't on the top of my head.
Oh, I know. I'll look us here. Where agents? Where have you gone? Oh, actually, it's the social media agent. How could I forget it? The social media agent. So, what these agents are purportedly do is you give them, you set them up, you tell them what it is you want from them, and then they'll do those things for you. So, in the case of the social, which I've played with, and the prospecting ones I've played with, basically. You know about brand voice in HubSpot already. You can now do a bit more on the brand voice. You can update your brand voice, give it a bit more insight into what you want to sound like. You can show it your website. It'll pass information from your website. It'll try to understand what it is you do as a business. It'll summarize that for you. And when it comes to producing social posts, it'll give you a list of options. I think there's about half a dozen options. You could do educational posts and so on and so on. And then it literally suggests posts based on the input that you've given, based on your website, based on the brand voice. It'll write them, and it'll write them on an automated basis. If you want to post every day, it'll put a post out every day for you. At the minute, there's still the human element, and you can check those posts before they go out. But Rich, so we've got this in our account. I don't know if you've looked at it personally, but what do you think about handing over these potentially vital tasks to HubSpot AI, to Breeze AI? The social one first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so just looking at the way it writes things is sort of slightly concerning straight off the bat. Is that it's almost like well, that's not what I'd say. But obviously, there's a leap of faith there a little bit in terms of trusting the AI to write posts that will be received in the right way. It certainly doesn't do things wrong or incorrectly. It just sounds, I guess in a way, yeah, I guess it sounds like a robot, doesn't it? Yeah. It sounds, and I think that's maybe a little bit of a problem that they need to work on. One of the things that has become prevalent in SEO, for example, over a number of years, has been this concept of easy reading. And this is one thing that AI is really bad at, is when you evaluate the easy readingness. And there's a number of different ways of doing that, but basically there are calculated ways of doing, how easy is this to read, and the way that that's calculated is things like sentence length and the size or the number of letters in words and all sorts of sort of fairly basic crunching. of the data. But I think that's really interesting that AI often, no always, fails on easy reading. So I think there's a thing to learn there. And I've often seen AI like use a word that is clearly not a word that a human would use, and it's almost like it kind of errs that way, which I think is a bit of a problem. But anyway, I think generally, there's quite a bit of tweaking to do and manually getting it to feel right. But I think it's a way off being like, turnkey, like, turn it on and let it run. I looked at what we were, me and Tony looked at this together a little bit, and I was a little bit nervous about what it was coming up with, and it was going, that sounds very AI. So there's that.
I think it's a great point. And James, it's a shame Scott's not here, because he might argue, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, he's not here to defend himself, but he might argue that it would get better the more you train it. But you know what? I've not seen any evidence that that's the case. What do you think about that? So Richard says, basically, it produces these social posts for you that are potentially a bit shit. There, I've said it. I mean, it's
paraphrasing.
it certainly gives you the structure. It certainly, you can go in and you can probably more easily edit and than you would have if you'd had to do it from scratch. Maybe it saves you a bit of time. But will it get better, do you think?
I do. I'm sure it will do. Like, I mean, the brand voice side of things, I was a little bit disappointed with the lack of updates on that side. Like, I saw there were some things in there about what to avoid, but the whole idea of distilling down your brand voice into a handful of tags, I still find that really backwards. I think that's just sort of going back to personas rather than being custom. And I think that's part of the reason that these things sound so linear, is that we're sort of going back to putting this content into buckets. I think that's more a criticism specifically of HubSpot AI. I know that other AI systems, they do have a tendency, to your point, Rich, of using particular words that AI seems to love using that people just don't like using. One of my friends was commenting out only this weekend from the content he was producing for his website. But I'm sure that as it gets more inputs, as it takes more time to optimize, and as different AI agents get to talk to each other and collaborate and refine, it will be able to produce something that's more unique and better. I think it's still good that they've, for now, they're now giving it where you can actually choose or check the content before you publish it, because it's too early at the moment for it just to be throwing it out there. Otherwise, people who are like a bit too trusting are probably just going to do that. But yeah, to your point,
we'll see it. We'll see these posts. I've no doubt. We'll see them getting churned out.
They already are getting churned out. That's
they are. They already are.
It's not quite as convenient to just have it all plumbed into HubSpot and just far away.
And as James says, the other AIs are available, and are occasionally just as bad. The prospecting agent, again, now the theory here is fantastic. The build up to this, I was so excited about the prospecting agent. Check what it does, right? You can enroll a company or a contact into the prospecting agent. You can actually have people or companies or contacts enrolled automatically following, I think there are 3 different routes into the enrollment. One of them being that once somebody's filled out a form on your site, you can hand over the prospecting follow-up to the prospecting agent. If somebody's lapsed for whatever period, 7 days, 14 days, 6 months after they'd filled out a form or engaged with you, the prospecting agent can build that up. And there's another one which escapes me for a minute. Or you can just add them in manually, right? And what it does is it reads the CRM record, it passes the information off the CRM record, it takes the context of the conversations you've already had, it looks at the website of the company and other available information, and it puts 3 outreach emails together, which at the minute is, say, you can either send out directly if you're very brave, or you can just check first and edit. You can probably take that word that keeps getting repeated that AI loves out of it, for instance. Or you can, the other thing I always find remarkable is no matter whether you click professional or witty or friendly or helpful, they all sound exactly the same. Maybe that's just me, but anyway, it puts these 3 emails together and it's ready to go, right? So in theory, somebody comes into your CRM, they fill out a form, the prospecting agent picks them up, checks their answers to the form, looks at their website, does a bit of digging around, and based on what you do as a business, it puts 3 prospecting emails together. It'll send the first, second, and third if that person hasn't. This is amazing. This is absolutely, frankly, this is science fiction, right? Slight downside. If you look at the emails, they're shit. They're inaccurate. They're extremely badly written, and in no way do they represent anything like a human voice that I've seen. And I just, it's not very good. The idea is amazing. The execution is awful. It's like one of those memes that you see, where you get client's expectation versus reality. The expectation of this thing is just incredible. And then when you look at the emails, it's just may as well write them again from scratch.
I'm actually surprised it doesn't start with "Hello, dear."
Yeah, exactly. Can you send me a friend request? That's exactly what it reads. In fact, I think the spinners and the bots on Facebook are probably well in advance of Breeze AI. James, you're chuckling away. What do you think? Am I right? Am I just a grumpy git?
I think you're a bit of both, personally. But then
I agree.
What's interesting is the fact alongside this is that like Google, Apple at the moment, I've been told are developing systems for weeding out and identifying content that's been generated by AI, which doesn't align well with the way you're describing the content so far and the way that the content and the sort of the lack of customization the content has so far, because it's probably going to be flagged by those filters within 5 seconds. It's basically like the same as you had spam filters. Now you're going to have AI filters that can pick up all your cold outreach that sounds a bit crappy and be like, yeah, you don't want to read that. That's shit. Take that away.
Yeah, that's a really interesting. Yeah, so in the battle of the machine AI, the more Apple and Google want to serve us good content, which is apparently what they want to do, the more they'll turn this stuff into the spam folders, because it's clearly. I mean, you can't. Nobody can argue with me on this. Surely, there's nobody out there that likes the stuff that this is putting together, that has read these prospecting emails and thinks that's what we need in our business. That's the voice. That's the tone of that we want in our business. If you are watching this and you think that, I would love to hear from you. Okay, so I'm not going to pick on the other agents because they pretty much do the same thing, and I can only imagine they would do the same thing with similar sorts of results. But the third tranche of AI in Breeze, in HubSpot, is the Breeze intelligence, which I have to say always makes me laugh. Now, again, a fantastic idea, right? This is right. This is mind blowing. So there's a little bit in your HubSpot now, if you've opted into it. It's called buyer intent or intent, and there's a combination of stuff going on here. On the one hand, it's going to look at a company that visits your website, and if they visited a certain page, like for instance your pricing page, right, or your contact us page or something, it's going to flag it up as showing intent. Now there's a couple of things you can do with this as well. You can make that quite sophisticated, right? So if you get lots of traffic, you can weed out the tire kickers from the actual hand raisers potentially. I think that's awesome. That's absolutely brilliant. A really nice bit of kit. Very simple. And you can see it working. As soon as you switch it on, you can see visitors to your site. That's lovely, right? But you've also got this intent intelligence. You've got this Breeze intelligence stuff, which is a slightly different thing. And this purports to, like Google intent, or Apollo intent, or I'm sure Zoom Info intent, shows when people are allegedly in your in the buying zone, right? They have intent to purchase your product. I don't know that any of this works. Does it work? Does anybody know of any of the intent data that actually? I know we use it in ABM a lot. Chris Nolt is one of the most highly regarded ABM people in the planet. I love Chris; he's fantastic. Maybe I'll send him a DM or something. Does he find intent data that works? James, have you found intent data that works? Rich, in all your Google experience, does Google intent data work? A lot of questions.
Tough question. I mean, we often infer when we do SEO, we often infer, what part of journeys people are on, literally by the keywords they search for, which it's hard to distinguish. And Google, looking at some other information that Google provide, things like the way that they map out their journeys, it's impossible to map out most user journeys because most people do cycles and cycles of research before they actually really ready to commit to a buying process. And they may have also gone down the buying process several times with different
down and back up, down and back up. Yeah,
exactly, because they might be looking to find, like, some websites don't give you the price up front, so you have to go through the process to get the price, and then there's all the thing about all the added extras that you have to buy or pay for or whatever. So there's always those things that go on, but the buyer's journey could be several, or not even several, could be hundreds of cycles before actually you get to intent. So I think it's difficult at the best of times. SEO's always been hard from that perspective, and obviously there's some really key stuff that's pretty obvious, and beyond that, making that link between the two is really hard, I think. So I'd say AI will crack that, I'm sure.
But again, the theory makes sense, right? People are leaving digital fingerprints everywhere, right? The words that they're searching, as you say, the websites they visit, the pages they visit. But I go back 20 years and I think about when they used to say that advertising was going to be targeted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a cesspool. Advertising is not targeted. It's just got cheaper and more spammy. James, intent. Put you on the spot. Intent, yay or nay? Not even breeze necessarily, right? Just intent data generally. Are you a fan?
I like the concept. I think it could work quite well if you have a large amount of data to base it off of. I've seen this even with clients going back years now who use things like lead forensics to collect this kind of data. Obviously, that with people being dragged back into the office now, that data is probably going to get more accurate again at this point as well. But I don't know. I mean, the thing is, this is probably one of those things that will get more and more useful as you use the CRM, as you get more data. But one of the questions that's always on my mind is, like, how much of the pooled data, the pooling data between all different HubSpot portals can be used to actually drive the development of this forwards and the accuracy of it forwards. Because I know there's been a lot coming up around people wanting to keep their data in the CRM private to respect the rules of the people that they're actually marketing to and so on, which in itself is a detriment to the advancement of this technology and to even to its self-learning and self-optimizing.
Now there's a way to describe data protection, a detriment to the advancement of this technology, or a boon to the protection of the public.
Of course, yeah.
Tomato, tomato. It's a good point, though, James.
I think because we get a lot of data on websites through Google Analytics and places like that, and it's all anonymized. So the actual, if you could decant certain behaviors from that, you don't need to know that it's Richard Underwood or Tony Dowling or even James. Or even James.
James has got value too.
People. But the point I'm making is that the actions are there, and whether or not they're attuned to one person or another, obviously it would be easier. But you can distill a certain amount of information based on those actions anyway. The bigger point about the data being stored locally for HubSpot portals versus being hoovered up into the mothership and then having all that activity deployed to it. I mean, there might be a search engine out there that has lots of properties, not just search, but maybe they provide a mobile OS, and maybe they provide mapping services, and maybe they provide, analytics for websites for free. Maybe all of those things have terms and conditions that enable them to stay separate, or maybe that company is using all of that data to enhance its core products. Maybe that could be happening. I'm just putting it out there. But I would say for sure that's happening. And if you look at buyer intent going back a bit, but going into things like paid search or paid social, Facebook and Google are definitely trying to make that side of things as easy as possible, because paid advertising in general is quite complex for a user. But the more people can use it, and the less overhead there is and less speciality there is. It's almost like, can I give Google £100 and they give me 10 conversions? Would I want that? I suspect that most people would say, well, actually, yeah, I'd go with that, because most of that paid search activity to actually get to that point is actually a pain in the posterior and time consuming. If we can get to that, obviously I'm, distilling and all that sort of stuff. But if we can get to that would be really good.
I think the analogy, when I was talking to Chris Carolyn earlier this week, we talked about the car, HubSpot at the moment is a bit like cars were when we were lads, Rich, maybe not James, but where, you'd need a bit of a mechanical nous yourself to keep the bloody thing on the road. I used to change radiators and alternators and batteries and bushes on suspension arms and all sorts of things. You could do it yourself back then, right? Now cars are completely enclosed units. If you think of a Tesla, there's literally nothing a user can do to interfere with it, and it just drives, right? So HubSpot is moving from being something that has to be cajoled and nudged and nurtured and repaired occasionally to becoming something, I'm sure, that will just run like a Tesla. It'll literally just do what you want it to do. How far away that is, I don't know. I think that's where I see this technology really becoming useful, and I do wonder therefore how early on in the curve we are, and whether are we just buying into the hype a bit too early? Are we all seeing something that could become this fantastic? How long has it taken just to get to electric cars? The dot-com bubble, 2001. How long has it taken for these internet companies to become useful, to do the things, deliver on the promises that they've given to us? Ad tech, as we mentioned, is still bullshit. It still doesn't deliver any useful targeting whatsoever, despite what the people selling it will tell you. Otherwise, you'd only ever have to see one ad. You wouldn't get spammed with millions of them. You just have the one, and you go, "Oh, that's handy. That's just what I was about to buy." Click. It doesn't work like that, does it? The one, I think... Sorry, Jay, I just want to move it on to the next piece. I think I could talk about intent and data, but I've got another perspective on this intelligence, so-called intelligence, and that's enrichment. Now, I've just demonstrated enrichment in HubSpot to a client. And I can tell you, as a HubSpot seller of some years, this happens a lot, right? When you're demonstrating a product, and it's not, I'm not talking about HubSpot, it happens when it's Apollo or anything else. And maybe it's a UK thing. Maybe it's better in the US, right? But when you show somebody their own company being enriched, it's almost always wrong. The data is immediately able to be validated. You're literally talking to the person who runs the company, and they're like, "That's wrong. We don't have that many people working for us." Shit. And this is the one you always get. I wish that was our turnover. Now, if you're an SDR or a salesperson researching companies, you go and buy this information, right? And again, the promise of data enrichment in HubSpot is mind-blowing, right? Sit back, assuming that you can afford the upgrade to buy enough credits to get the enrichment, perhaps we'll touch back on that in a minute. But you can sit back, put a load of shit into HubSpot, and it will automatically clean, dedupe, and update the records. So all the telephone numbers are there, all the email addresses are there, all the addresses, and then intelligence. Things like how many employees, turnover, industry. Amazing. Sounds fantastic. But I've seen so many examples of it where it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Now, again, I pose the point, are we just too early on the curve to make any use out of this stuff? Or am I just a grump?
So I saw this. I mean, like a lot of people. I mean, I'm not saying I'm really cool an individual here, but I saw the significance of AI fairly early doors, and had people around me who kind of gave me an in on it a little bit. But one of the things that I think is really, really clear to me, looking back on that process and then sort of extrapolating that into something like HubSpot, is that it's become very easy to access the tools. It's like, you just log on to ChatGPT and start throwing stuff at it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. You are it is in complete control. You are defined by your prompts, and obviously, you go through a process and you learn how to prompt, and you get information from people, and blah blah blah. Your prompts improve. So there's that part of it. But I think the really interesting part of it is that we are only just starting to understand how we can not control it, but manipulate it, the output of the AI, in order to get what we want and make it sound like we want, and to package it up like we want. I've seen a lot of like black box kind of sort of pieces that fit together with AI, so that you can make it more how you want it to be. So like guide rails, if you want to call it that. Things like if you're trying to do math or that kind of thing, you put it through a black box that kind of says, do your maths right, if you like. I know that sounds crazy, but it's almost like the brand voice thing. Is it gives it guidelines that so it won't use daft words, maybe that your brand would never say, etc.
It's the principle of the agent, isn't it? You're teaching a specific piece of code to do a specific job,
and you're giving it guidance. But I think as that part of it increases and the control becomes a little bit more sort of pointed, maybe. I mean, we looked at something the other day, Tony, when we did some content through the content remix, and it kept coming out. One piece of content kept coming out in Welsh, and that's nothing wrong with that. We are
Welsh language is fantastic. Doing dusky away.
But we didn't really see how that works, and there's a problem there. It's like, well, it's almost freeform at that point, because we can't just say, well, can you not do that? And more than that, we actually went on a little bit of a wild goose chase around trying to find out where there might be a setting that was sort of saying Welsh is an output that we desire, because we don't think we did.
So this was an English language video, by the way. There's an English language video going into Remix, producing Welsh language content, which is just I wish I could make it do it on purpose. Honest to God, that would be money for all raw. But
yeah,
I think that's one of those hallucinations, maybe. But James, so Richard makes a good case there, I think. But I'm gonna play in devil's advocate for a sec. Breeze Intelligence is saying it's going to do these things for us, right? It's actually been trained. I mean, down to the fact it's going to say this is the turnover of the company, these are the headcounts and stuff, and that information's wrong. Surely, can you sell that? Can you morally? Can you legally sell intelligence software that's incorrect?
Yeah, I don't really know the answer to that. I mean, what I do know is shit in, shit out. That's pretty consistent logic for the entire of time.
Does your mother know you use language like that, young man?
Oh, well, why don't you give her a ring and ask her? But I mean, it's gonna be interesting how like how the system is going to learn. And I think these agents and the way people interact with these agents as early adopters is what's going to drive that. Like I went to a resort with a mate over the weekend who was building a new website for himself, and he just couldn't shut up about the fact that it used to take him 2 weeks to put a website together, and he'd spent the entire morning creating using ChatGPT over a cigar, and he'd only had to make a few little edits to it over time and refinements, and how much time that had saved him. So there are enthusiastic people like him that are going to use that. They're going to spend their time saying, well, actually, no, I wanted it this way. No, I didn't want this as bullets. This is, and sort of coming up with different ways to explain to the AI in a way it understands what we want it to do. And obviously, the terms and conditions of those products probably have in black and white that whatever you tell us to do, we will use it to make this product better, and there's nothing you can do to switch that off. With the side of the data though, and the data accuracy, like, I don't know what more we can really do about that, because you say, like, these platforms like ZoomInfo, Apollo, etc., there is a lot of wrong data in there. Like, how do we make that data right for the AI to then be able to learn? Otherwise, it's going to learn off of incorrect information, and it's going to learn to be worse.
Garbage in, garbage out, or put another way. 100%. And, exactly the same thing with your CRM. If you've got rubbish in there, you're going to get rubbish out of it. It doesn't matter whether it's AI extracting that information or you're doing it yourself. Okay, just one other point. I want you guys' opinion on this as well. So I love HubSpot, despite perhaps what you've been hearing. I'm being deliberately provocative. I get the promise of AI. I'm more than happy to say that. I absolutely do. I remain to be convinced that it's anywhere near delivering on that promise. But I'm really excited by what I would love to see it being able to do. I don't see that it is able to do it. But on this topic, I love HubSpot. HubSpot can be expensive, right? If you're on Starter, it's, I think, the best deal on the planet, best software deal on the planet, like £40 for a whole customer platform without automation. Make that very, that's the main difference. But if you get really into it, you can spend quite a lot of money on HubSpot. And again, as HubSpot sellers on occasion, we often hear people say, it's expensive, it's a lot of money. And on balance, I always argue that it's worth it. It's worth what you pay for, right? You get what you pay for, and you buy in HubSpot. You're not buying, an active campaign or a go high level, or you're buying something that's got tons of research gone into it, a lot of brand building, lots of technology. Fantastic. So I've got no problem with how much HubSpot costs. I will say it's expensive. But when it comes to this Breeze intelligence, which on the face of it, setting aside the fact that perhaps it might be wrong, on the face of it, seems to be this incredible enrichment, incredible enablement tool, incredible time-saving device. If you go into HubSpot to switch that on now, you've got to pay more to get that data. I don't know how I feel about this. So you've got HubSpot, you've got the function. In order to use it, they want you to buy credits. It's 1 credit per call. You can buy 100 credits, I think 1,000 credits and 10,000 credits. And I believe you can also do a deal to enrich all of your CRM data all in one go for like $5,000, I think I read. Don't hold me to that. And then those records will continue to be enriched, which is lucky, really, considering how many of them are going to be incorrect. But what do you guys think in terms of HubSpot's pricing, in terms of the way they're going around this? HubSpot, you pay your subscription, you get your tools. This kind of micropayment, upgrade, in-app purchase thing, is that good news for us?
I'd definitely like to see them make more of it available to their lower tiers, because it is like, I'm optimistic about AI, and I think that it's only going to be a couple of years before a lot of the concerns that we've been discussing today are, say, not totally resolved, but massively reduced, and we'll see improvement as this feedback starts to take effect. But the best way that I see to do that is through usage. Even though Breeze is sort of now coming in as a fully fledged marketable product that they're now selling as part of their system, like, it's still such an early concept that I kind of treat it as if it's still in beta, even though it's not. So what do you do if something's beta? You try and lower the barriers so that it can get better more quickly. And I hope that more of these features will start getting opened up to more people so that they can get better quicker along with this whole market shift.
Nice. Rich?
I think it's partly inevitable. If HubSpot was suddenly going to give away that kind of enrichment process where other tools are you have to pay proper money for, well, maybe not proper money, but you have to pay money for Apollo and Zoom Info, etc. So, and also those business have a cost to them. They don't magic this stuff out of being out the back of their office.
True.
They build and manage these information structures in order to try and be more accurate than. And
well, they bought Clearbit, didn't they? That's what they've done. They've bought Clearbit and they've integrated it into HubSpot. So they want to pay. They need to pay for that, of course.
But also, I think if it's enabling and it actually, if it's not functional, but if it's sort of tapping into something that has that kind of look and feel about it, as in a credit can buy you X. I mean, maybe that's a good way of giving you more services without it being tied to a subscription, because we find as partners, I think we can all agree on this, that there is a lot of often elements of frustration to the way the subscription is structured, because sometimes it really does come down to, I just want this one thing from
like a
this
custom object, for instance. 100%.
Exactly
Comes up all
right.
the time.
And the domain stuff, and clearly they've built structures around some of this to enable you to be able to buy that specific thing, but not in all cases. And also, as we've talked about, maybe this is a good way of applying something like, if you don't want to go fully into this, you can have a go with it and not kill yourself cost wise or commitment wise. And therefore, you can use it and abuse it and see what you get out of it. And then if it's not for you can back off without too much problem. So I think that's kind of okay, but it will depend. And I think I get frustrated with software where you start off at £10 a month, and then for things that you really should get on the basic package, you end up paying for, and then all of a sudden it's 60 or 70 quid a month. And then you're thinking, well, I can get like Adobe's complete package for like 50 quid a month. So why the hell is this 60? And it's just a few,
Panda Doc, what I'm talking we're talking about you.
Panda Docs, your pricing model is horrendous.
So, Rich, sorry, Rich. James. So what he's saying is, there's scope potentially. The future is a free HubSpot, right? All the tools, completely free, but you pay as you go, pay per usage, pay for API calls, pay for emails that you send, pay for products that you use, pay for quotes that you send out, pay for Breeze intelligence enrichments. Is that a way forward for SaaS companies?
Oh,
that's
it's
massive pain. That is, sounds like it.
Yeah.
Well, no, you just get billed at the end of the month, right? It's all automatic. You just use it and you use wherever you want.
No.
Right?
Yeah, I get that. I'm trying to think how the hell HubSpot would make it so that you could do that, because that's sounds like a load of work.
sounds like a new business idea. That's what it sounds like. Pay as you go CRM. James, we need to build it.
It's one thing the market doesn't have.
Scott can build it. Let's get Scott on it. He'll build it with some ChatGPT bot or something. It'll be awesome. Apart from all the details will be wrong.
To be fair, AWS do it and other platforms like that. They do it, but that's sort of based on metered usage. Like, with so many different HubSpot tools, how do you possibly quantify that, like that usage? And I mean, it kind of makes sense because it does allow you to sort of try things out on a smaller level. But I think the tendency is that you'd use those advanced features more as you scale anyway. So the higher up the chain you go, the more you end up paying more. I mean, it's the same with the per seat pricing thing. It lowered the barrier to entry, but I think it's going to mean enterprise people are end up paying more in the long term anyway as a result of that.
Well, the subscription is a bundling technique, isn't it? And one of the reasons for bundling is you give people perceived value through the addition of exciting sounding products that they probably won't use. Because if they if they were using it on a metered basis, as you say, potentially the overall usage would be a bit lower. Interesting. Okay, let's stop kicking Breeze. Oh, I know I'm the only one actually kicking Breeze. You guys have done a really good job of putting the other perspective. Like it. Let's just wrap up with. Have you got any other highlights? There's 200 updates. We talked about 3 of them last week at Inbound. The conference itself clearly was another major success for HubSpot. I went off without a hitch from what we can see. I've only heard amazingly positive things. I've talked to a few people who were there. They loved it. Anything else that came out of Inbound that you think we should be talking about, or you thought was good or bad, even? If you could bring yourself to criticize.
The CTO. What's the CTO's name? I can't remember his name.
Matt Pyrie, is it that guy?
No,
Damesh Shah.
Yeah. I love his pet project, the
Agent AI.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I thought that was really cool, and that actually, I didn't. This was serendipitous in a way, but I talked about that in terms of the black boxes. But I think the more capabilities within AIs, and we're seeing it emerge as we know at the moment. We know that certain AIs are good at certain things more so than others. Even though they have common parts, they do have these kind of because of the way they're trained, because of the way they're programmed, etc., etc. But I think the idea that you could kind of almost build a custom AI methodology based on several, and basically you plug in the different data points and the different things that you want to do, I think that's really, really exciting. Obviously, that may not come to pass in any, it's a pet project, but it sounds interesting, and it sounds like once you can start having that level of leverage over the AI, then maybe it is starting to put a lot of power into users' hands rather than having to just do what it can do rather than being able to tailor it. I don't know. It sounds like a really interesting way of building it, and obviously that's outside of HubSpot, nothing to do with HubSpot. Well, I mean, it was built on HubSpot, and it's got the CTO of HubSpot building it, but I don't think it's necessarily they're not.
No, I get it. James, you have any highlights?
Yeah, I mean that was kind of a surprising one there, because I don't know if you've been studying the stuff with, I don't know if I meant to mention this name on this call, Salesforce, what they've been doing with AI. But
I've heard of it. I don't know exactly what it is, but it comes up in conversation every now and again.
Yeah, it does. And their CRM, whatever that may be, it basically, the way they've sort of approached AI is to be that more configurable system where you can throw a lot more into there, and you have a lot more customization, which is probably more to AI's advantage versus the things that we found are the limiting factors in HubSpot. But that's pretty much true for Salesforce across the board. Salesforce has a lot of advanced features that HubSpot doesn't. It is 10 times harder to set everything up than it is in HubSpot for things that should be extremely simple for that reason. And it's just really down to the 2 different approaches that the CRMs take. And with HubSpot, I'm just seeing the same thing here with the AI. It's the thing where it's taking things down to tags and everything like that, the lack of configurability and the fact that's giving a lack of variation. That's kind of core to what HubSpot is, advanced, but not so advanced that everything becomes 10 times too hard for you to do anything. Yeah. So interested to see what goes with that.
I think that's another good point. I'm going to pick on the easy, fast, unified mantra, the theme of the event, and I think we'll see that through the rest of the year as well. I love that as an adoption enthusiast, particularly, having stuff that is easy to use, fast to implement, and unified across the whole picture. All of your data is it's the winning formula. It's a good point. It's sort of, again, Microsoft, Apple. In Apple, you've got this closed garden where their argument was it just works. Whereas in Microsoft, you've got a lot of buggering around and configuration and fixes and so on. But it's so much more powerful or flexible or adaptable. That's basically HubSpot, Salesforce, right? you're going to have a PhD in Salesforce to be able to get it to work. But if you can, it's amazing. Whereas HubSpot is much more, well, easy, fast, and unified.
I think it's interesting where you start looking at how you would run an instance of one or the other, HubSpot or Salesforce, and you really can't do a great deal with Salesforce without developers. I think that's a fair statement. Whereas, although you can't do some things with HubSpot without a developer, and that's certainly a good thing. Developers are great. You can do a lot with admin and with an extension of admin, i.e. it's a bit like, I'm going to use a really probably not particularly good analogy here, but it's a bit like JavaScript. JavaScript's not a full-on, it can be, but you can hack a lot of things with JavaScript in websites, for example. So you only need to have a bit of knowledge with JavaScript to be quite dangerous, actually. Whereas with HubSpot, it's almost like there's 20% developer, 80% admin. I mean, I'm talking about people who really know admin really well.
Yeah.
And then maybe Salesforce is maybe stacked a little bit more the other way around, whereas it's more 80-20 developer come admin. I'm generalizing here a little bit.
No, totally. No, it's fair comment. Fair comment.
Well, my experience anyway, from when I was using Salesforce fairly recently, it was almost like you turn it on and there's a C prompt, and it's like, oh great, this is Salesforce, and it's like that's a bit of a problem. You turn on HubSpot and it's like you may not, you may feel like a massive mountain to climb, but it's all there looking at you. And there's also lots of learning, and there's also lots of everything. But you can get your hands dirty quite quickly.
And I know several Salesforce experts who I'm sure would love to come back on that, and we have discussed Salesforce and HubSpot at great length. Is a very good webinar that we did on that a while back, and maybe we'll do it again. I'm sure we'll do it again. But I'll call it there. Easy, fast, and unified, just like us. Thank you, gentlemen. Great insight, great thoughts, good conversation. I much prefer that sort of thing than trolling through 200 updates. I hope our fan appreciates the effort that we put in. And maybe we'll go back to the normal format next week. If you'd rather see this stuff, tell me. It'd be amazing to get some kind of feedback. And if you'd rather see us pontificate about things, that's great. But otherwise, we'll be back to normal lists of updates next week. Thanks again, chaps.
No worries.
It was a brilliant hour, 45 minutes. See you again soon.
See you soon. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Tony.